Suckers. Meet the Suckers. A soccer podcast that probably won't last. Meet the Suckers. Meet the Suckers. Schuyler and Jeff don't know how to rhyme. Meet the Suckers and chat shit today.
Hey, buddy.
Hey,
How are you?
I feel like I have been like just today. I'm like, okay, the holidays are definitely over now. That's all done, isn't it? Everybody's because it's such a weird wade back in. And yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. He's the guy that's based on a statue in Boston, I think.
Are you thinking of Martin Luther, or do you just not understand Martin Luther King at all?
Or how statues work? No, I was making a joke as if I just skimmed the news like some sort of naive.
Jeff, your statue has limitations.
It does.
You have a statue of limitations, I would say.
I have many limitations. No, do you have any opinion on the statue in our former town of Boston? That it's supposed to be like Coretta Scott King and Martin Luther King's arms as they hug each other, but from many angles, it kind of looks like a floating intestine.
I'm looking it up. I have stopped subscribing to statues monthly, so I haven't gotten any of the latest.
You just sticking to the weekly.
We call it apostrophe choose news because it's all the news about statues. So choose news.
Apostrophe TUES. Wow. I'm glad that you gave me a hint on that because I wasn't gonna get it.
No, I spelled it out. I made sure.
Yeah,
that's a rough statue. That's like almost as bad as, if not worse than, the Ronaldo statue at the Madeira airport.
I think that one's worse. This one is
at least this one's abstract.
Based on interpretation.
Yeah, this one's abstract and dumb. That one was just like, let's have a child do the face just for the motif.
It's weird because I do feel like over the years he has started to look a little more like that statue. Like his eyes are like aging in a weird way that looks like he's not getting enough sleep.
Wait, are we talking about Ronaldo or Martin Luther King?
Yeah. No, I mean, well, and Martin Luther King too, in the sense that he's not like alive anymore, and that statue is. But yeah.
Tough question. Who do you think has done more for Manchester United, Ronaldo or Martin Luther King Jr.?
Man,
I have an opinion on this.
Martin Luther King Jr., friend of the pod. Man, I'd say probably Ronaldo. But definitely he got some negative points recently where, like, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. has had no own goals in terms of Manchester United. Like, nothing he's done has really been negatively affecting them. And I will say, a racially integrated team, Manchester United.
That's where I was going to go. That's where I was going to go with it.
Yeah, so in a sense, the question is who's better, every player of color of all time or Ronaldo, who, as you know, is a turd.
I have an opinion. I think it's every player. I think it's not Ronaldo. I think Ronaldo would lose that one. I know it's an unfair hypothetical because who asks that kind of question? We do.
I should ask that question probably in a pub or something here of like, I don't like at the time that Martin Luther King was like getting people like the right to ride buses and vote and do like pretty basic things in America. Like, how cool were they over here? I feel like they weren't that cool. The one thing I know about like sort of 60s and 70s era UK racism is they had a show called like, oh God, it has like a terrible title. Like even the title is like slurific, and it's like
let's be careful with how we introduce it into
it's like My Neighbor the Slur. Like that's the name of the show.
So that's the high concept that they went with. Oh, this person lives next door.
This is the predecessor to Can You Believe a White Guy and a Black Guy Are Friends premise. This is Can You Believe a White Guy and a Black Guy Are Enemies? They're so close.
That's like such boring, like racial based fiction. Like there's so many other things you could do that, while still problematic, would at least be an interesting concept.
True. Although I do at the time in a lot of places, I think that was basically also documentary. Unfortunately, that was how the
Can
world was.
can I ask you one more hypothetical?
Of course.
For all of the young Arsenal fans,
Yes.
Nicholas Bentner has been
The
more
Lord.
important to them, or Saint Nicholas?
Whew, Saint Nicholas,
Got
famously
you.
red and white to his core.
Well, let every Arsenal fan, as a young child, was getting Christmas presents hand delivered from Saint Nicholas. So
Yeah,
I'd
but he
argue
gave
that,
them to a lot of the other clubs as well. You
but
know what I
that
mean?
doesn't. All right,
That
fine.
evens it out.
Let's just say he doesn't give them to the little Arsenal fans. Suddenly they hate him. I feel like they're appreciating those gifts, regardless if someone in Watford is getting presents.
I mean, yes, I think I guess I should thank Santa for not singling out our team to be the only team to have a presence ban, because that definitely would
A
have set
presents
Arsenal
ban.
back. Like, I mean, there would be really, really tough to get the youth set up involved if we were cut off from the North Pole.
Cut to Arsene Wenger being like, all of the little boys were on the nice list this
Careful.
year.
Careful. Where are you going with that?
Oh, you know where I'm going with that.
I was like, I
I'll
hope
just
he wasn't, but you were.
I'll park the car at the end of the driveway though. I'll give you some space.
I will turn this thing around. God damn it.
All right. Emotional Stability FC, Jeff. What does this mean to you?
Emotional stuff. Very, very little. It was not any of the teams that I watched this weekend. What does it mean to you?
To me, it means Arsenal, who we have been talking about as the temporary front runner on this podcast pretty much since like the third week of the season. Right. pretty soon on, it was clear Arsenal were like performing really well for the beginning of the season, and there was a certain moment in time where I think they became genuine contenders for the title, and I think that was this week is going to be I think that like I know that they've got quite a lead, but it's like the lead is getting to the point where it's late enough in the season that lead is going to be a point where that lead is insurmountable, even if Arsenal were to like implode for the last few weeks of the season. You know, like there is a certain point where you have the math to win, and beating Spurs. Not that I'm going to take the description of that match away from you, but like I saw the North London derby, and in my mind it was like, okay, Spurs not. I mean, they're playing poor for Spurs, but they have great players, and all of those great players were shut down. So for me, Emotional Stability FC is Arsenal, and Emotional Stability FC is actually United as well. This might be the first podcast where you and I have like nothing to complain about.
I was, I should have guessed that, because I was going to say it's not often that we're both going into an episode
a good mood.
But after Derby weekend, things are feeling pretty good over here at Arsenal and United.
Doesn't it feel like this weekend, for just like a few days, COVID never happened? Like the joy of
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, AIDS too. Never.
I mean, for me, it hasn't.
Martin Luther King was actually a boring guy because he had nothing to fight for, because everybody was just, you know what I mean? Like, what was he fighting against? Everybody already had voting rights.
I was going to give you all the syllables you needed to land that plane.
I think I got it.
You did.
Okay.
But to get ahead of talking about the two big matches from this past weekend that we're going to focus on, would you agree that, like, as a fan, like as an Arsenal fan, and the time you've been an Arsenal fan, isn't this the most emotionally stable you have been able to feel as a fan? I'm putting words in your mouth, but
Schuyler, I'm climbing light post and screaming at strangers. No, I do not feel emotional stability. I feel great. I feel fantastic even, but stable, maybe not the word to describe me. Although I think for a lot of the players of Arsenal, they seem to be, for a bunch of like 23-year-olds, they seem to be handling it quite well. Of like, we're on a very big stage. There's a target on our back, you know, like, and I think in some Premier League seasons, being the front runner for like end of fall, beginning of the new year is almost a trap, because it just makes everyone that much more worried about you. It makes, I mean, even just to the level of like, I'm pretty sure everybody else was watching our game. You know what I mean? Like, like the actual players and staff involved. Like, obviously, sometimes those guys are going to watch it anyway. But it's like there's just more known. We're not flying under the radar in fifth like we have been in previous seasons. You know?
Right. The target on your back exists in ways that it hasn't. At least as long as we've been on this podcast. But maybe as long as my memory of your Arsenal fandom would be that you picked it up in grad school about a little over a decade ago, right? And as a result of that decade has been barren for both of our clubs. So I'm guessing it's like
a little bit less barren for yours, but yeah, thank you for lumping yourself into that.
No, but it has been. We haven't won like a major trophy since Ferguson retired, and that was a decade ago.
Okay. But yeah, since grad school, you have at least the one title. I mean, the interesting thing about this, and I don't want to like go too far, and I definitely don't want to jinx anything, but like through the first 18 games of a season, this is the best Arsenal have ever played. Like, this is the best 18 games that Arsenal have ever had. And I mean, they're not far off from being, there are only a few teams, like a recent Liverpool, a recent Man City. I forget the other one. I looked up this stat the other day, but like basically there's like 4 teams that have ever had a better beginning of the year than this. And even that is almost unbelievable to me because we've won or we've lost 1 and we've drawn 2. So that is pretty damn near perfect. I mean, we dropped 7 points this entire season. You know, that's pretty good. You know,
Well, has it been 18 or 19 matches? Remind me how deep into the season.
I believe it's 18, but now you're making me want to check.
So that if you were just looking at an 18 game spell, like that's as good or maybe mathematically better than that ridiculous spell that Ole had when he went from interim manager to real manager and forgot how to manage the second he signed the contract. But like that period was like a period of games in the teens, and it was like our best stretch ever. You may have just had a better, longer stretch than that. It really what it and like we'll get into this at some point, I'm sure, but like it's all about injuries, right? Like you lose Partey, I lose Casemiro. Any of these things happen, it's like suddenly the trajectory we're on is no longer possible. Like those bedrocks make it possible. Like losing Jesus is one thing, but what if you lost Nketiah? Or like what if you lost like another one of your goal scoring options? Suddenly that's like, even with a great rest of the team, that's maybe too much of a loss to him. That the team isn't functional anymore when you start missing that much top level talent. But I think your lead is enough where like you could get an injury and like maybe still win the league. So like you're getting into the period where like if you are able to add 3 to 6 more points to that lead at any point over City, over us, over Newcastle, then that might change things, right? Like you might start to be like, we might win the title this year, and then you might be able to suddenly be comfortable with the idea of that.
Right. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be comfortable until stoppage time is over in the final game of the season. Even if we've won it a few games before that, I think I don't want to, you never know if they dock points, what could happen. But I do think like this, I mean, I'm going out of order here, but the Arsenal and Manchester United being happy at the same time club is probably not going to be a thing on the next podcast, considering the next fixture that we have where Arsenal play Manchester United.
Let's save that juicy bite.
But I will, I think that's going to be such a key game because if one or the other of us win, then that 3-point swing is pretty huge, or 6-point swing really. So it's like either you're going to be 6 points behind us essentially halfway through the year, which means who knows, like maybe Neville was right. Maybe you'll win the league, or we're going to be 12 points ahead, which
don't you think he said that to like just be in papers the next day? So like, I don't know that you need to worry about that in your calculus.
I mean, it's an interesting, like he's not as far wrong as it seemed at the time though, because you do have a game against us immediately. So if you manage to win that, and then if you just look at it in terms of form, like if you lop off the first 2 to 3 weeks of this season where you guys were the worst Manchester United has been maybe ever, I don't know.
No, the worst since the last game of the last season.
But if you do that, then I think suddenly it really doesn't, it's not quite as crazy as I thought then, although it's not the bold proclamation that I would make if I was in charge of being right. It's the bold proclamation I would make if I was in charge of getting lots of attention and making soccer nerds on Twitter main.
Wait, did you say MAME?
I meant to say mad, but I think like midway through I was thinking about saying
memes?
angry, so then I just said mang, like as if
just
I
some
was
guy.
like a bit character in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, like, all right, mang.
And you're like, why couldn't the Latino guy who's doing the getaway car driving just sound like a Mark or a Kyle? Like he doesn't have to sound like.
I actually grew up here. Yeah.
That would be great in GTA 6 if they have some characters that seem like stereotypes, but we just have like dialogue in the car where they're like, "No, man, that's fucked up. Like, why would you make those assumptions on me like the past 5 GTAs did?"
You know, that would be amazing if they're taking you to the job and they're like, "You are a mang, mang, mang," and then like when they get out, they're like, "Actually, dude, I was just trying to hype you up before. We need to be serious and cool-headed right now. This is my normal voice, and I was just kind of taking the piss earlier, trying to get you in the zone. Let's get away with robbery."
Let's get away with robbery would be a really funny subtitle for GTA 6. Like breaking it down there in case you didn't know what we're about or thing.
I would like if that was a series of Taskmaster where the show became so popular that they gave all the contestants like a get out of jail free card, but they all had to go and like whoever shoplifted or not even shoplifted, like you could do a full on heist, but whoever took the most valuable thing,
they would return them.
Yeah, like it's all for.
What if
it's just a prank, bro? It's just a prank.
But what if the Scouser security guard shoots famous comedian?
Well, that's why it can't be in the U.S. But in the U.K., they would just get stabbed. So pretty much.
Oh, you're saying just no guns?
Well, no, because. I guess that's true. I guess there are people with guns specifically to stop crime. So maybe my premise is not going to work after all.
Did you ever see the movie Run, Fat Boy, Run with Simon Pegg where he runs the London Marathon?
No.
So he plays a security guard who just tries to chase after people who are shoplifting, but he kind of just gives up, and that brings you into the premise of the film. Like, why is this out of shape guy running a marathon?
Wait,
I thought you had seen it.
Simon Pegg is the fat guy in those movies?
Yeah.
What?
I know, right?
I thought he was the skinny blonde guy.
No, they pegged him as the fat guy.
Oh, wait. No, wait.
You're thinking of Simon Nick Frost.
Pegg, Simon in the Cornetto trilogy. That's also Simon Pegg, right?
Simon Pegg is the skinny guy in the Cornetto trilogy, but in Run, Fat Boy, Run, which is not a part of that.
Because for a second, I thought that I had the actors' names flip-flopped in my head this entire time. Okay, go on.
I think is it Nick Frost is the guy you're thinking of?
Yes.
Of the two of us, who is Simon Pegg and who is Nick Frost?
I'm definitely fatter than you.
But I don't think it's about that. It's about personalities. Remembering the end of Shaun of the Dead where Nick Frost is a zombie who's just playing video games in the shed. Who is the more juvenile? I would say maybe me. You're the one
going that way. Because I feel like I'm the more lackadaisical and self-indulgent of the two of us. The guy who's gonna just sit around and be lazy and eat ice cream, I feel is more likely to be me.
I feel like you don't know me after all these years, Jeff.
Okay, so we're both the Nick Frost character, and we desperately need a Simon Pegg in our life.
I bet you I've eaten more ice cream more recently than you is my guess.
Oh man. I actually just went recently. We somehow got access to a U.S. Air Force base that's here. Well, basically, so it's like they teleported a U.S. grocery store here.
Oh, so you get the American brands. They just overnight them from DC.
Oh, now that I'm in the kitchen, I can even show you. Boom, product placement, not an ad. Pop-Tarts. I got cookies and cream Pop-Tarts now. They got all flavors.
I've had those years ago, Jeff. And what I learned was, oh wow, there's a new flavor of Pop-Tarts, and then I get it. I'm like, all of these are bad.
What? You don't like Pop-Tarts?
All Pop-Tarts, wait, if you could eat something that looks kind of similar that's not a Pop-Tart, you'd be better off choosing that.
Kind of
They're
similar.
the pastry is just, there's so much sugar in it, and it is so not sweet that it's confusing. It's like they're wasting sugar.
Really? I feel like they're very sweet.
No,
Maybe
the
you
icing.
do eat more ice
You're
cream.
thinking of the icing.
Yeah.
The pastry, it is like bread texture.
I do like. I feel like this has gone by the wayside now, but for a while there, like in like the 2010s, everywhere was doing like gourmet like Pop-Tarts on the menu, and those were fantastic. Like
On
admittedly,
Instagram,
yes.
I got homemade weed pastry that was shipped to me from like Portland or San Francisco or something. It was like
I
Pop-Tarts.
remember.
Wait, did you have one of them?
Yeah, you gave me one before my flight.
Oh, I may have
It was
timed it.
great.
I may have timed it for your visit. Did it work?
Yes. Although it was one of those things where like when people say like, "Bro, don't eat the whole thing," and then I was like, "Okay, I won't. I'll be responsible." And then like later, I was like, "I could have handled it," but it was probably actually a good
Maybe.
idea that I didn't.
As long as wait, you didn't? Everyone that's listening to the podcast is like, please give me the details of your flight beverage and snack choices. It's all I want. I was just gonna ask though if you drank any booze with it, or if you just had the Pop-Tart and were like, this is the way I'm riding.
That's a good question because sometimes I don't
You don't
like
remember.
to mix my peanut butter with my jelly.
It's sketchy. You don't know what's gonna happen on a flight, especially.
But like just like a little pint of jelly, which is a bad metaphor because a pint of beer is what I mean. Like one, you know what I
A
mean?
pint of jelly is like disgusting.
That's a lot. That's a lot of jelly. It's just a pint. Just
like-
you have to go one jar and then another. That's a pint.
This is a funny idea for like a YouTube series where you're like, who will eat jelly on camera, and everyone will be like, oh, I'll do it, and then we're like, okay, if you can complete this challenge, and then like, yeah, and you're like, you've got to eat like a family-sized. And then like that's one of those things where it's like you take something that's good in a small dose and you make them have a large dose of it until they hate it, and I think that's funny, and I would watch that.
It's like the next Hot Ones. But I think the name of it really should be called "Who Will Eat Jelly?" on camera.
Hugh Grant presents too much jelly, or something that makes it perverted.
This week's guest, Yo-Yo Ma. He's like,
"Are you jelly? You jelly? You jelly is the name of it."
You're
and it's
so
always,
jelly.
if only I had like a network of famous people to interview where they could be like, "Do you want to be the first person on You Jelly?" I could totally make that work.
Yeah. We all have at least like 2 famous people that we can contact and get disregarded by, right?
Oh, do we, Jeff? Go ahead. Dox yours on our podcast right now.
I don't know if I'd say I really know them. I'm just thinking of people I've made commercials with, and some of them aren't even that famous. Like, I mean, I guess I have the most famous. I've made a commercial with LeBron James. That's pretty famous. But after
Nice.
that, the next level is like Flo. And that was in the same commercial. And then the next level is like Stephen A. Smith, ESPN personality. You know Stephen A. Smith, right?
I do.
Okay.
I do. He's famous for yelling things that are often not true at all.
Yeah.
We call him Fox Sports News. You know what? If I were on a shoot and Flo from Progressive came over and started sensibly like flirting with me, I think I would respond.
Oh yeah.
She's probably older than anyone I've dated, I'm guessing, but
yeah,
I feel like I've seen her enough on TV that there's a familiarity coming from my end where I'd like kind of feel comfortable around her. Really overthinking this, but I feel like that's what would happen.
She is really cool. I mean, like I've spent a decent amount of time with her. It's been a long time. I wonder if she I bet you that if I saw her now, she would not recognize me or remember me. But like, she is very, very funny. Like she was like Biffles with all the like Chris Parnell used to live on her couch and stuff like that.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Because she came up in the comedy scene, but just found a niche.
She was a groundling, and all that. And like she was kind of like on the, I think like she wouldn't probably like bring this up, but like I would. But like she was like on the fringes of like maybe you'll get cast on SNL at one point. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But
I'm sure
but
she
is
auditioned.
like,
I'm sure she's auditioned for it. I'm almost positive.
But she's also like she's like Chris Parnell's age, maybe a little younger. You know what I mean? But
wait,
I think
Chris Parnell, not the guy from
like Rick and Morty, like Rick's
not
dad.
not Soundgarden, right? Okay, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's Chris Cornell.
Oh,
yeah. He's also probably very funny, very cool guy.
He also slept on her couch. I don't know how to do a voice for him.
Close enough.
Wait, did you ever talk politics with Flo? Are her politics progressive?
I don't remember any specific, but yes, I would bet almost anything that she did not vote for Trump. But actually, I shouldn't say that. I probably just actually did dox her because all of the people that like her did vote for Trump.
Rough. Really?
A lot. I mean, that's
the wrong insurance company for regressives to pick.
Well, it's more that she like who loves Flo is people that are our parents' age and older, and those same people you may notice have ruined our country at the ballot box. So it's broad strokes.
I have noticed. I've gotten the gist. All right. Speaking of progressive, do you want to talk about Arsenal's progressive display against Tottenham Hotspur?
You know what I'll say?
Nothing. Not interested.
It's so fun to win those games, but then for me, it's weird because after the games, everyone else. Like during the game, I'm so happy when we score and I'm like hanging on the edge of every little event that happens. But then afterwards, I always feel like everyone else is like, this is the best day of my life, blah, blah, blah. And like for me, as soon as I like leave the immediate like vicinity of like where I watched the game, like if it was in the stadium, of course, or like even just like as soon as I leave the pub, I just go back to being like, it's a normal day again. Like, it's like I definitely feel better than if we had lost. That sucks. Then it follows me. But if we win, I'm always like, all right, well, that's good. I'm glad that happened. Even though like in there, I was just as crazy as them. And I feel like that all changed because of douchebag celebrity Dave Portnoy, who has like become like a hardcore Tottenham Hotspur fan. And like, because like other Arsenal fans are always like, they're like, oh, I just can't wait to rub it in their faces. Like other Arsenal fans like hate Tottenham fans and think that they're like the worst human beings on earth and like really want them to like suffer and like have like the worst twist of fate happen to them. But whatever like luck of the draw I have in my life, like I really only know a handful of Tottenham fans personally, and they're all like delightful. Like there was a Tottenham fan in one of my old improv groups. There was another Tottenham fan in one of my improv classes that you met when you came to London. Shout out to Kieran, friend of the pod.
Oh, he's a Tottenham fan?
Yeah, he is.
Jeff, if only you could get some of your like British local football fan either friends or acquaintances
Kieran on the pod. Kieran listens. He might be our only listener. He's probably watching right now.
Hey, Kieran. We've only had American guests on this pod. I've been doing my damnedest, but I feel like you have access to more like source material than me.
We should. I'll get us a few Brits lined up.
Kieran would be great.
Brit cred.
We've had no Spurs fans on the pod. We've had we've had 7 Arsenal fans on the pod. We've had one Everton fan, Harding, on the pod. I'm very close to getting us a Liverpool fan. It's just very hard to schedule LA workday against. I mean, what do you mean rivalry week? Just getting them on. What am I going to find? A Portsmouth fan out here? Like, I just met my first IRL new Manchester United real friend in Los Angeles. His name is Neil Talbot. Hey, Neil. I'm doxing you. Neil's address is
what's his credit card number?
I don't know. He is Scottish, so I'm guessing it's a low number. It's from way back. It's like 711.
Ooh, quick quiz. Do I only know this because I'm kind of British, or does everybody know this? What is the stereotype about Scottish people? I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the credit card.
They have sex with credit cards in Scotland?
That's it. No, they're cheap. They're supposed to be very cheap, the Scots.
So
And that's
instantly
why
shattering.
it's called Scotch tape.
I'm
I swear to God, because you
I
don't
thought
have
it's
to use
'cause
very much of the tape. So it's like
you
a
drink-
Scotsman would like
No,
it.
you
even.
drink scotch, you get so wasted, you knock over a vase, and you're trying to fix it. And it's that scotch tape. It's the tape you use when you're drunk.
I hate that I will think of that every time I ever use Scotch tape now, but I know that I will. It's so perfect.
I need to leap to Neil's defense
Yes.
because in the one time I've been around him, he basically covered the tab for like 10 soccer friends that came to drink together the week
sounds great.
before our local 8-a-side kicks off. So this team feels good about itself and is successful and scores goals and wins games. So they want to hang out with each other when they don't have to. I'm like gonna faint. I'm like, oh heavens!
Wait, I'm not sure if I'm getting. You're saying because they like hanging out with, but you're
They like
on
hanging
that
with each
team.
other. I just was brought into the
Okay.
fold. I haven't gotten to play with him yet. I'm one of the new people, if not the new person.
Oh.
They all know each other. They all like each other, and then they invited me to their
January
thing.
transfer window. You're in.
Yeah, but free, or at this point, my salary is a negative $108. So
yeah,
roughly what like Fellaini's making in China.
instant fine.
Oh, but anyway, so that was a long derailment of you talking about what happened Arsenal versus Spurs. But Neil's dope. Neil, if you happen to be listening to this,
Arsenal
the
versus
shout out
Spurs,
is positive.
which is the segment of the show where we talk about if Schuyler has Man United friends.
Yeah, but I brought us back from the commercial break, and I also watched your match. So
I was going to ask. So you did watch. I felt like from a neutral perspective, it would have been a pretty entertaining match considering the home side didn't score. Like it was.
I will disagree with you.
Yeah?
In that it wasn't back and forth. Like it felt like Arsenal was going to win from the second they went up 1-0, which was very early.
I think if Joris, is it Joris? We're calling him Joris, right? Like with a double L, Loris.
Joris. Yeah, like Maurice, but with an L and older.
Some people call him Loris. Anyway,
just call him Butterfingers.
Dude, he literally had to do the Matrix to let that goal in. Like it hit him here, and so if he hadn't done that, I think the game could have gone a very different way. Like I think for us scoring early away from home against a team that's coached by Conte, that is huge. Because if they had just been able to sit back, or God forbid they had scored first, I don't think we're getting a win. Maybe not even a draw.
They'll play like Newcastle in that scenario. But like,
yeah,
he's not like a getting back into the game kind of guy. The way that I don't think like Simeone is either at Atletico. Like they're just teams where that's their plan, and they win very often by like just making something happen and locking it down. But is that how Spurs have been? What's their goal differential? It's better than it's almost the same as United's, and Spurs has played one more match, which they lost 2-0.
Yeah.
So they're like level on goals with us if you consider that. And we've gotten smacked around multiple times this year. So Spurs doesn't have like a lockdown defense necessarily. They've allowed 27 goals in 19 matches.
But it's the ultimate game of if you switch the goalkeepers, then they win. Because they had, as much as it wasn't an end-to-end kind of game where they're generating a lot of shots and chances, they had at least 2 that they easily should have scored on. They had a couple others that were like solid chances where you'd expect if you get 2 or 3 of those, then one of them's going in kind of thing. And Ramsdale is just a beast. I mean, he controlled that game, and not just the saves. Like every ball into the area, he was punching out. He was distributing the ball well. I mean, we were like, I mean, even like the I can't remember if this went all the way back to the goalie, but even Saka's first goal, like you look at it, that's a pass that came from the back. Like I want to say it was like Partey? Gabriel or Partey, might have been Partey, that it was coming from pretty far back there, and he just gets the ball, and it's like, oh, well, I guess I'm going to keep running up here until somebody stops me.
Wait, so Saka forced the own goal? That's what happened? And then it was Odegaard just taking like a well-placed long shot. from like 25 yards out.
which we discussed a little bit offline. And
Oh yeah,
you know,
Jeff. For the listeners, Jeff said he didn't like the goal. It shouldn't stand because it wasn't
Yeah.
beautiful enough.
No, I like it when they walk it in. I'm an Arsenal fan.
You're a classic Arsenal.
No, I mean, it was a great shot, but it's funny, like in the moment it looked like, oh wow, that's amazing. But like, if that had gone in against us, I might have been a little critical of my goalkeeper for not, you know what I mean? Because all it would have taken was a fingertip, and like he's shooting from 25 yards out. Like you ought to be able to get over there. It wasn't the same. Like the one that didn't score that was crazy was the one that Party hit off the volley.
Right, he hit the post.
That is one of the most well-struck balls I've ever seen in any game. That was incredible.
But he technically hit it wrong. It happened to be perfect how he shins it. You don't have great control when you hit it with your shin. You're not getting sort of the cup of your foot meeting your leg, sort of golfing it into the right exact spot. Like, and he hit on the volley. Like, it was prey and just fire, but it happened to be a laser bolt of a shinning.
I think, to be fair to Party, I think it was practice shooting long distance shots religiously for decades, prey and fire. I think there was one step that you left out there, but yes, it was pretty well hit. I mean, I just think that, Spurs were a lot better than they showed in that game. There was about 15 minutes where I thought they looked really good, like coming right out of the half. And I think what that was Conte going, oh yeah, remember our plan to like be dicks and to sit back and like we can't do that anymore. And
you can if you just want to lose 1-0.
Right. But it's a kind of a waste of that team. And it's interesting because not that many years ago, I feel like they were exactly where Arsenal are now, where it's like they were the young team. They were the talk of the town. They were the ones that were like maybe challenging for the title. And then it's amazing how quickly that changes, because now most of their players, Harry Kane's just about done, like they're on the down swing of that, and they never really made much of it. So, and
Conte is not a long-termist team builder the way that frankly Arteta is, or if you remember Pochettino doing that at Spurs, or even what hopefully Ten Hag is doing now. Conte is like, I'm going to scream at the 20-something guys you got and get an extra 7% out of them until they hate me. So like a less funny Mourinho.
I was just gonna say, I was like, he's very similar to Mourinho. He's like a nicer guy, but also like a less fun guy.
Another guy that
didn't want to have a beer with either, but gun to my head, Mourinho.
That's another guy who didn't really last that long at Spurs. Like, it feels interesting because for so many years it's been Levy is so great at running Tottenham, like he's such a shrewd negotiator. I'm starting to think differently about him. I feel like they made a lot of bad director of football decisions. He just is a stingy dick. Like that doesn't mean he's good at football. It just means he says no to reasonable offers for his players and refuses to pay average rates for the ones that are bringing it. But that's it. Like, that's his skill set.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. And like, I think that there's something to that. If I was being slightly kinder to him, I'd say that he has the balls to like say no and to do things. But yeah.
Is there anything you want to say about the match? How did you feel at the end when it was like another obstacle overcome? I mean, you guys at this point level on games with City, but you are 8 points ahead. Same goal differential. I mean, basically what that says is you're roughly performing as well as City, and that you maybe have gotten a few more bounces your way, but you need that to win a league anyway.
And I feel like they've had they're in this weird sort of it's
Holland is doing well and they're not.
Well, kind of, or like, is it the opposite? There's this debate around and even when he was flying very high, like De Bruyne had like weird things to say about him in press conferences of like, yeah, just imagine when he actually gets our tactics, how well he's going to do. And like, I do think there's this weird, people have made the point that maybe they were better last year without him. Granted, they don't have all the same pieces that they had last year without him, but like, I wonder that a little bit too, where they were just a machine last year, where now it feels like they could have an up or a down game. You know what I mean? Like, they might beat us 5-0, But
we haven't seen Guardiola play with like a real focal point striker since, hasn't it been? I mean, I'm probably getting this wrong, but I want to say it's like David Villa at like Barcelona or something.
yeah,
Like a guy where it's like, yeah, we can tiki taka, pass the ball around, and walk the ball in, but we've also got David Villa to score 25 goals. Like, this is him having to change the way that City has played for the last, how long? 7 years? Like a long time. And Holland is always going to score goals, but the defense looks kind of iffy. And then it might just be that they're confused with like, oh, so should we be playing tons of passes around, or should we just chuck it to this freak?
maybe. I mean, the thing that I've heard is that he's not dropping back to be sort of a false nine as much as they'd like him to. Partially probably because he's a real mind. Yeah, I'm not sure it is. But I mean, I kind of thought just because of his speed and because of how successful he was in Dortmund, which is like not a team that's like built around, it's not like he was like replacing Zlatan there or something, that like I kind of thought that he would slot in a little more easily. But I think like it's in this weird conundrum where he could say, I'm not getting the service I need. And then the counter to that would be like, well, because you need to participate in the build-up play. That's how this team works. And so I don't know. Hopefully they continue to implode. We play them 3 more times this season. And that's the other thing, sort of nickeling back to what you said before about like, how do I feel about being 8 points ahead? I think it's kind of a false dawn because, 3 of those points to, a direct competitor for the title now somehow in United are going to come this weekend. And then we still have another 6 points left between us and City. So if we drop those 9 points, then it doesn't really matter.
Sure.
And suddenly it's a 3-horse race for the title, which neither of us would have ever predicted when we started podcasting in the beginning.
And I still won't predict that. I'm willing to anoint you guys as candidates for the title, and City, by virtue of their resume, even if they were 5-6 points further back, would still be like in with the shout, the way that Liverpool could be in 10th place and you're still like, those fuckers are going to get 4th, aren't they? Like, there's a bit of inevitability to just doing it year after year after year after year. But if we lose to you this weekend, and I'm assuming we beat Palace in midweek, which I can't assume, if we lose to you in the weekend, we're still 5 points up on Spurs with the same matches played from 4th to 5th. Like, that's cushion in top 4 that I don't remember having, not since that year we finished second. So, like, it's weird for me. It's weird to see City failing, and their version of failing is like a little bit better than our version of succeeding.
Yeah.
Like, their failure is 12-3-3 so far, and that would be a 1-point improvement on our best season in years.
Yeah, I mean they're insanely good. So I don't know.
Would you put it against them figuring it out for the second half of the season, or would you put it behind them? What's the right expression? Would you count them out for figuring it out?
Yeah. No. I think. I mean, honestly, even now, like the only reason that there's any sort of fake crisis with them, they're 8 points back of Arsenal. But like I said before, like this,
they could take 6 points off just with your head-to-heads.
Well, that, and I was just saying, like we are on a almost unprecedented point total, certainly for Arsenal, but for almost anyone, like this is about as good as a team can be sitting in the table. And so even if we were very good in a normal season, we would have had like a random slip-up game that we haven't had, and this or that, or bad decision from a ref or whatever, and we would be 6 points lower, and everybody would be saying, oh, what a fun title race that's neck and neck. But just because, I think basically they're getting judged poorly because Arsenal have been on such a tear. And I think if what we have to do in the next 18 games is only lose once to win the title, I don't think that that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Everyone's going to drop points.
We're going to regress to the mean a bit here,
But City arguably will drop more points too. Like, it's like everyone's exhausted. Although, and I don't know if this is the bias of me hearing this from the commentators, but like, have you noticed all the teams that had a lot of World Cup players are largely playing well, and the ones that have had none have almost like kind of lost the mojo?
That is a really interesting point. That was my sort of bias too, although I would love to hear someone that like looked into it a little more, but like generally it seems like the players that competed in that tournament, even the ones that didn't do that well there, they just seem to be in a little bit better form.
Fitter, sharper.
It's like, I think the other guys, it's like, it's amazing how quickly the sharpness, I don't think they've lost the fitness, but I think that the sharpness of like, just knowing, like reacting that split second faster every time, I think you can lose that pretty quickly.
When I get my fitness up for running and I like run every day for 2 weeks and I take like a few days off, like say if I hurt myself or whatever, and I'm coming back a week later and I'm ready to run again, I lose a lot of my lungs just from a week. So if everyone took a week off, they probably had to start over again. I don't know if you can make this full argument until the season's done, because I might expect to see the World Cup players do better initially and then fall off once we get to match number
once
50, 60.
Starts clicking up,
And then you've got like Brighton is going to be like on the edge of top 4 pushing their way in because they had players that had a rest and now everyone's up to speed again.
Yeah. I mean, World Cup aside, there are other cups in play too that I think will have some of the same effects, where it's like if you're playing midweek games every week and you're still in the FA Cup and you're in the League Cup, thank God we're not, that's going to add up too.
We're in 4 competitions right now, which is not good. Not good for us that we are.
Wow, you're in all 4? Yeah. 3 is probably more than we can feasibly do, but
I think you can pick like one main competition, whether it be Premier League or Champions League, and one other little cup. And like that, I don't think you can really apply yourself to anything beyond that unless you have like City's lineup. But even then, they don't win every trophy every year because how hard it is to be excellent every 3 days for 2/3, 3/4 of a calendar year.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's going to be really tough. We do have City next in the cup next week.
Oh, that stinks. So you're going to play them 3 times this year?
I really wonder. I mean, if you're Mikel Arteta, are you just like letting the under-8s play that game and you're sort of just saying like
Isn't there a rule? I thought you have to like attempt to show that it's like a senior team, but you can rotate like a little bit.
I mean, even if there is, like, for us, like, that's one of the interesting moments of sport that I love that Mikel Arteta has completely taken away from me. Is like, I used to love to watch, like, right an hour before kickoff to see the lineups. And now that's boring because, like, he does not change that lineup. I can call with 99% accuracy who's going to be in the lineup every time. Whereas like Wenger was like always having 3 or 4 like new guys in there he gave a lot of young players chances that I think other managers might not have. But Arteta is not that way. And so I don't know. I think for him, even like a little bit of rotation is a lot of rotation. And I think we're going to see 5 or 6 different faces that you don't normally see for that cup game, even though it is against City.
Well, I hope that you win. It's weird saying that, Jeff. You know our relationship is complicated about your team, but it's just I have like this active power ranking in my head. I think we didn't we do this like end of last year? Like, who do you hate in reverse order?
Yeah, I think we did do that. I don't remember.
Like, it's like Liverpool finishes first on my hatred. Oh no, actually, I might have even given Liverpool more respect than City by virtue of they're not owned by like an oil state, but. Sure. I feel like I still want Liverpool.
Qatar.
I'm really enjoying this like recent Liverpool sucking. Like it feels like if we do have my Liverpool supporting friend join us, I'm gonna have to be a total fucking gentleman. It's gonna be very hard. It's gonna be very hard to not savor their 10th place or 9th place, wherever the fuck they are right now. All right. So United versus City. I think I normally talk more about United than Jeff gets to about Arsenal. So I think I'll keep this short and sweet. Everybody.
That's good because I did some talking today. We are at the 55-minute mark.
Well, I mean, I interrupted you. Don't worry about it, baby. United versus City. I was thinking, all right, the last time we played them, we lost 6-3, and that felt like a marginal improvement over how badly we got paddled last year, like 5-1 or whatever it was, 5-0. It was rough. And Holland was a lot, and we also have like little injuries that have been kind of present. Like we didn't have Diogo Dalot at right back. Martial was iffy. Like there's some concerns. Martinez has still not gotten back into like good 90-minute Martinez form yet from all that World Cup partying that he must have done. So it was like, oh God, we're going to get fucked. And in the end, this team is looking more and more and more and more well coached. Every week that goes by, it looks like Ten Hag is like fixing all that's been broken in them mentally and intellectually from like the last 2, 3, 4 years. I don't think we have the depth for a title challenge, Jeff, so I'm just going to nip that in the buttocks. But it was still nice on the day to beat City. What happened?
Sure.
We scored, we actually conceded first after dominating them in the first half. We played really well. Like, they had all of the ball, but we had all the chances. They didn't have a shot in the first half except for like maybe the last few minutes. And then we come out second half and Jack Grealish scores a header. So I'm like, fucking fuck. Like, I'm just like screaming around the apartment. But then what was different this time was we came back and we scored what was a hotly contested goal. Like, Jeff, this goal was contested hotter than most of the porn that I've ever seen. It was that hotly contested.
You have some weird taste, though.
I'm very much into questionable goal fetishes. Pulling the keeper.
You know, it's so funny because for the other person, we always talk about the guest that we shoulda, coulda, woulda had, but the other person I still really like to bring on is my sort of like I guess you could say professional referee, but he's reffed all the way up to like the semi-pro level. He's reffed at the highest women's professional level in America. And like, so he's like he knows his stuff. He knows the book front to back. And I kind of like, whenever there's a controversial call, I'm always talking to him about it. And I was surprised because for me, it looked like a real open and shut case of like the Man City defender was going to get back to that ball had it not been for Rashford being in the way. But he was like, actually, it's a very marginal call. And, you know, like, he's like,
well, they changed the rules for what offsides means every year. And I'm not saying that they change it 100% every year, but they tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. So like, you can't even really trust yourself to remember what it is right now at a given moment. In this case, I would say, if it was my money, I would say that yes, Rashford's position, I would qualify as interfering with play. But apparently it's not specifically laid out like enough. It's like, and I would say that if this goal was scored against me, I'd be super pissed off. But because it was City and because it's like part of this United Renaissance, I kind of don't fucking care, even though I know it was wrong. It's like, it was so wrong. It was right. Like, I don't care how to beat them.
Especially now in like the VAR era, it's like those few times that you get away with a call, you just have to like, because they always go against you. So the few times that you get it, enjoy.
Ever since Klopp said United keep getting all these penalties in a year that we were getting, I guess, an above average number of penalties, we've gotten like one since then. And it's been like a year and a half. So like, really? Wow. I feel like he was playing like Game of Thrones, House of Cards bullshit with that press conference, and we were due. We were due like a freak thing helping us out. But then what wasn't a freak thing was Rashford scoring the winner that Garnacho just made out of nothing.
That was a crazy goal. The way he just like that little loop-de, like, I mean, that was pretty amazing.
When he's 20, he might be the best player on our team. Like he
what's
has,
his deal? I don't know him that well.
So he was in our academy. I think we got him from the Atletico Academy when he was 15. Like whenever he was allowed to move, he moved. Might have been 16. He played
16 for a professional contract here, but you can't get one there. Oh, I love that move.
Well, also fuck Atletico. Like, let's just stack up all the teams. I don't care if they cry or not.
Sure.
But he came over. He was dominating at the youth level to the point where he was pretty much why we won the youth cup last year. And so naturally, he started getting opportunities during the preseason tour, and he started getting opportunities, after a few weeks of actually getting in trouble for like showing up late for meetings. The same reason Rashford got half benched a few weeks ago was late for me. Like, Ten Hag is like, these are the rules. If my mother breaks them, she's getting benched. So
love that.
I don't know.
Arteta's the same way. It works.
But look at what's happened. He's got this young kid on a great path. He's got like, I can't think of a player on our team that's trending in the wrong direction. either they're staying as good as they were, they're slightly improved, or they're very improved. Like you've got players like your Maguires and your Lindelofs that I don't think he's turning water into wine here, but I feel like they are more stable and sturdy now as rotation than they were last year as one of a starting back four. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like he's going, even Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who I thought was a hilarious paper mache player. We were gonna sell him.
He was
and
key
then
to the buildup of that first goal.
He's almost like fine. Like he's like like he. I want to say he got partial blame for leaving Grealish open on the far post for that easy header, but his passing is improving. At one point, he dribbled through 3 City players by himself, which I was like,
"Wow,
what is it your birthday? What's going on?" I'm not saying that he is gonna displace Dalot. I think Dalot has the more complete offensive skill set, more confident offensive skill set, but like Ten Hag is like just fixing everybody, making them usable, and that like the sum is becoming even maybe better than the what's the expression? Our team is
greater
playing
than their
better.
parts.
Yeah, I think we've got some parts that don't fit, and he's like getting kind of a tune out of them.
Yeah.
And like for example, like Anthony Martial is our starting striker on paper. Nobody wanted him last season. He still missed half of the fucking season from injury. Apparently, we play better when he's there. Like Ten Hag is like making it work. If we get new owners, which we will talk about in just a minute, I think that he could do wonders if he's getting like first choice players to fill in some of the holes that we've had for years. But yeah, so in the end, we had a 2-goal, like 3-minute turnaround to go from 1 down to 2, 1 up. And then the last few minutes when you're thinking, City's going to take a goal from you, we just shut up shop. There was really no big chance to speak of in the last 5 minutes of the game and 5 minutes of stoppage. Like it was great. And then I was awesome. I was in a good mood for the rest of the weekend. I watched your match the next day, and I was like, I don't care what happens. If Arsenal lose, we're in the title hunt, and if Arsenal don't lose, top 4 is feeling pretty firm. Like it was like a good outcome.
Win-win for you.
Yeah, I was like, I have no reason to be upset except for all of the things in my personal life that are a reason to be upset.
Just that.
Do you want to quickly preview? We alluded to it earlier. The 4th ever Meetthesoccerico derby. I wish you were here or I was there for this one, Jeff. Feels like it would be a good one to do together.
That would be cool. That'd be very cool. I think it's a really interesting time for the teams to play because they're both basically. I think these two teams are playing as good as these two teams can play. I think these matches so often, it's the home field advantage that carries the day,
and you have that,
and we have that. So I think that's a huge thing in our favor, But
United has all their fans living in London, right?
Yeah. And I also I wouldn't count you guys out right now. You're too good.
So what do you think is going to happen? Like whether it's like either it's shocks or no shocks with the lineup. Does Arsenal thrash us in your opinion? What is the result and how does it impact your season or not impact your season?
I think both teams could win this game. I don't think it's something where I'm like, I really can look into my crystal ball and see one team winning or the other. I do think like if you guys score first, that changes the game a lot. I think if we score first at home, like the Emirates have been pretty good, pretty much a fortress this year. So, I mean, our only loss came away at Old Trafford. So we have not lost at home. I think.
But I want to mention that because when we beat you guys at Old Trafford, this is what I'll say. Arteta made a bad strategic choice, which we discussed on the podcast at that moment in time.
And I totally remember it.
I think it was mostly that like he played to our strengths and let us hit you guys on the break. At that point in time, I don't think the whole team was settled, and I don't think the whole team had gotten to like this is the way Ten Hag plays. I think the team yesterday is playing better than the team that beat Arsenal, but I don't think that earlier team would have beaten Arsenal if Arteta had maybe been a little bit more wise to how we would want to play. But I think if you'd taken the game away from us, then I think that you would have tied or won that earlier match because we weren't ready. I think that we are playing better now, but you're right. home and away is swapping. So I think it's
you
hard
bring up
to
a good
predict.
point, because the last time we met, Arsenal were riding very high, and you guys were about as low as you could be, and
This
that
turned it
was
around, or Liverpool turned it around, right? And then was this the next one, or
I thought we were the first
United?
good win you had. But I could be wrong, but it definitely, I remember it feeling very much the opposite. Whereas, I don't know. I mean, you could really change the season if you win this weekend. So please don't.
Wait, so I'm going back. It looks like so this is what happened. So our first win of the season was the third match of the season. We beat Liverpool 2-1, and everyone was like, holy fuck. Little did they know that's more indicative of Liverpool not being that great this year. Then we edged out Southampton and Leicester on consecutive 1-0s. So that was a very shaky platform to build on. But you're right.
It's funny. I don't remember you guys being riding high off 3 wins, because I think you were still very not confident in this team.
It was a surprise that we beat you guys because you were undefeated. And we had a couple of you should be beating them if things aren't on fire. But then the next match, 4 days later, we lost 1-0 to Real Sociedad in the Europa League. So it was still very much I think we were, that was the first match that Ten Hag was I want them to control the match, but maybe we should just counter. Whereas now, yes, we played that way against City, but all of the other matches after the World Cup we have not played. We played controlling the match. So I think
that you'll come out trying to play toe-to-toe, even though it's an away game? I mean, it is an away game.
No, I think we'll play you the same way we just played City.
Yeah. It's actually
who knows
probably the best possible preparation to play us. The Guardiola Arteta coaching tree those are very closely aligned in the forest of coaches.
And our defense has vastly improved. This is what. All right. So, did you pick a score? I feel like I want to pin you down on a score.
Ooh.
Because I've got one in mind.
All right. I'll be optimistic and I'll say 2-1 Arsenal. But I could see any number of things happening in this game. I think these are 2 good teams, relatively evenly matched.
I believe it'll finish 1-1 or 2-2.
But good result for you then.
Honestly, yeah. I don't think you can expect to just win every match as us when you can hardly rotate. We play Palace tomorrow, and I want to rotate against Palace, and we've lost to Palace in recent times. So it's, I don't know, man. It feels like you just need to have 20 great players, and we don't. We don't have 20 great players. We have 15, 14. We might have players that are
15 is a lot. That's more than we have.
But all right, sorry, great is unfair. Because who's great and who's not great, you get in that whole argument. But I feel like we have, let's say, 15 players that don't need to leave, that we can keep playing with and build around, even if it's only for a couple of years. And the thing that also worries me is that most of your team has got 5 to 10 years in front of it. So you guys have a very young team. You're the United States of the Premier League.
We are the youngest team in the Premier League, which is kind of a crazy thing.
And we're definitely not, because we got an old goalie. We've got, borderline 30s with Varane, Casemiro, Maguire, Lindelof, Shaw's 27 or so, Bruno. We have a lot of players in our primes. We're going to need to turn over this roster again the next couple of years, which I'm hopeful can happen if we get taken over. Which today, all the news coming out today is Sir Jim Ratcliffe, richest Brit in Brittendom, and his company Ineos, which is a chemical refinery. So I'm sure we're going to find out that they've killed whole species of flying squirrels. But they apparently they made a press release saying they're bidding. So it's not even it was leaked. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't. They're bidding. Wow. And that might be a consortium that has Ratcliffe's money, and he's the face of it as a United fan. Ineos money, maybe Middle East money as part of it, but not all of it.
Yeah.
Who knows? But we're going to be finding that out in the coming weeks. And so I'm sure you will, if it ends up being a Saudi group that takes over, I'm sure you will nail my ass to the wall about that. And I'm going to have to become a Sutton fan or something.
Can I give you a preview of whatever happens?
Sure.
The person that buys you is going to be a billionaire or a group of people who are very near billionaires, and all of them are bad people, every single one. So there's no one that could buy you that I'm not gonna have at least some tiny amount of leverage on you now to be like, oh, it's okay to kill some grandmas, huh? Okay to kill some flying squirrels. Not all flying squirrels, huh, Schuyler?
And my promise to you is that the Cronkies are next. So like, let's just hold each other as we plummet down on the earth. If someone offered the Cronkies $4 billion, you think they're gonna go, nah?
I think that they wouldn't take $4 billion because
But Chelsea just went for that.
The Spotify guys just got offered him 3, I think, and they like didn't even have a sniff of it.
But now all of a sudden it's takeover fever, like Liverpool and United being taken over at the same time. And then that's not even saying this won't happen in other leagues. But it seems like it's like England is in particular like, yeah, give me that money.
I do wonder if any, like, you know what I mean? Like, say you're sitting at a poker table in a casino and you're doing pretty good. You're maybe not the biggest stack at the table, but you're doing all right. And nobody can push you around. You got some money. And then you see, like, Elon Musk sit down and you're like, okay, I've got to knock down the pecking order one. There's another rich guy. And then you see Warren Buffett sit, you know what I mean? Like, once everyone at the table, you know, like there's going to be Newcastle's going to be this crazy force now. You guys are not going to be run by the Glazers anymore soon. Maybe Liverpool is going to become PSG West. You know what I mean?
PSG West. Can you do that though? They're both in the same European competition.
That is a weird. I mean, I'm sure they won't be owned by the exact same group, but it is a weird. There's probably going to be something incestuous there.
But Liverpool meet PSG in the quarters.
Sure.
Which team gets threatened with execution for winning?
Yeah, both. Twist. Yeah, no, that's a tough one. But I do think like the Premier League is already maybe too competitive, and like to the point where it's like it's maddening as a fan at times because like you really cannot count on like that 4th place trophy that we used to love so much at Arsenal. And I think that that's only going to get crazier. So if I were the Cronkies, and they're basically running the club at cost from what I can tell, or if anything, it's like slightly in the red because football teams are bad investments. So I wouldn't be surprised if they cashed out, but I think it'll take more than $4 million. I think they're not selling Arsenal for less than 5 or 6.
By the way, billion. Sorry, I would never.
Oh yeah.
Sell it.
I should have said Bill, because they only
$4 million for Arsenal.
For
yeah, we think
$1 billion-ish.
How much?
So like, I mean, I think like all in it was like 1 point something billion. So they could cash out with a few cool bill. Like I think that's like
several 100% ROI. That's unusually good.
Pretty good. But I don't know. The other thing with them, though, is like they own all those teams. And I know that in the back of their mind, they have all these like economies of scale of one day we're going to have the Crunky Sports Network and the whatever. And so letting go of your crown jewel, I hope that we're their crown jewel. That might be tough.
No, it's the Colorado Rapids, Jeff. They're the ones. They're the pedestal.
The Denver Nuggets, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I wish there was more to talk about the take. Like, I wish it was happening, but right now it's just like somebody said that they want us.
Yeah. But yeah,
it's gonna suck if Liverpool get like the big money injection and we get like responsible ownership. That'll suck.
Because you guys could like the Cronkies to me are such a cut above the Glazers, but they're not an Abramovich circa pre-Ukraine war. You know what I mean? They're not somebody that can just come in and completely change the fate of your team. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, it's like a slow burn with them of like, we're going to hire young, articulate coaches who have great plans. We're going to get more young. You know what I mean? Like, it's very like farm to table with them.
Farm to table? There's no other stops involved?
No, but I mean, literally in the sense of your farm system, but it's not something where they're going to come in and shake up the world. It's something where they're just going to slowly manage the club a little better than it was before until, I mean, it's been 10 years with them, and they're just now having their first real title challenge. Maybe 1 or 2 other ones, but
to be fair, it's been like 2 coaches. Other than that moment of Leicester insanity, it's been like 2 coaches that have kind of owned things for like the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And isn't it kind of nice to think of a world where like there's more than that? Like there are coaches that we don't know about that are going to be better than Guardiola and better than Klopp. And like, I'm not saying Ten Hag is that now, but he could be. So far, it's like he's doing as well as them, but with several months of build-up time instead of several years and transfer windows.
I definitely put him in the same class. I put Ten Hag in the highest class of coach in my book.
Do you think
For sure.
Arteta, Ten Hag is a two-horse race for manager of the year at this point? Maybe with the dude who's managing Brighton as the third one. I can't remember. Zerbic, is that his name?
Dessert bitch, I think.
The guy who replaced Potter.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember his name.
De Zerbi. Does he deserve to be manager of the year?
Yeah, I think he would have a better chance if it was going to be like Guardiola winning the league again, because they don't like boring things. Like, I forget. I think that Arteta has more coach of the Premier League Coach of the Month awards or Manager of the Month awards than Wenger ever got in his entire career. Because it's like, it's kind of boring to give it to him. You know what I mean? Probably similar for Ferguson, where it's like it's always going to be given to like the scrappy Southampton manager who's like won a bit more than he was supposed to.
Do you think that there's can you even see beyond Arteta at this point, Jeff? Or are you like, Arteta's going to be our manager till he's got gray hair and then he's doing like hair club for men ads instead of just being a customer?
Arteta will never have gray hair, for one thing. Look at that man. I think we should be so lucky to have him. Like, if he was our next Wenger, I think we'd be fools not to sign him to a 20-year contract, because he's very, very good. Like, and I think that he is, if anything, like, to me, Arsenal are on that like Atletico Madrid level, and maybe that's even rounding up
of like tier 1B.
Yeah, where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, if Barcelona came calling him, where he was in their academy and he gets to move home and he gets to have, not now Barcelona, but let's assume Barcelona gets back to being Barcelona soon, and it's like, them and
Will they though? I feel like they fucked them. Like, if they don't
they have mortgaged an awful lot of the future, haven't they? Like,
like, what more can they do when they're
levers?
What happens when their 34-year-old striker turns 35?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. But then in that case, in a weird way, wouldn't that make all the more sense to hire a guy like Arteta, who's not used to having Barcelona resources and can be good? So I don't know. I do think that he's probably one of the most attractive managers in the world that somebody might want to poach, especially if you're Spanish.
I thought you meant attractive managers in the world that somebody might want to be attracted
also
to.
One of the most attractive managers in the world if you might want to have sex with a manager.
Not bald enough for me. Sorry.
You like your frauds.
All right, Jeff. I feel like I'm running out of work time here, but do you have any transfer updates? You want to talk about Madrid?
You mean their dick, not Mudrick at all. But yeah, that one got to the point where I was like, this isn't set in stone, but I'll be very surprised if it doesn't happen, because it really looked like the stars were aligning on that deal. And I think I'm pretty much in agreement with everyone at Arsenal. Like, I think that they were pretty upset that didn't happen.
Did you hear the details that came out where they're like, the money was similar that was offered by Chelsea. It was just that they would pay us a little faster. And then they're going to donate a quarter of the transfer fee to the war effort. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, imagine this 21-year-old player who's been kind of living in the war. It's like, you're going to go to one of Putin's former vassals, and don't worry though, they're going to give us some of the money.
I'm sure that won't end up in some corrupt charity. Like, I'm sure that's going straight to the front lines.
It's going to the Ukrainian Orphan Rehoming Fund, which is Russian soldiers stealing Ukrainian children. He sounds like he's going to be a good player, but it's unfortunate that he chose maybe one of the most dysfunctional big teams in the league, if not the most dysfunctional.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it's funny because on the one hand, they have about 7 forwards that are household names now. But on the other hand, whatever they got is not working. So maybe he'll walk into that team. I mean, I was just starting to let myself watch the highlight videos and really get pumped to have him. And I do think he would be such an interesting guy to have in the mix now that we don't have Jesus for the next couple months, because He just loves to pick up the ball and run by 5 people. But then there is that little thought, and granted, I didn't want to have it until he became a Chelsea player, but like, it's probably harder to run by Premier League players than Ukrainian league players. And so we'll see how well he can keep doing that. I think he is a really good player. I think Arsenal were already probably overpaying with what we offered. And so I did say on the last podcast, man,
He's a $40 million player, really. That like
that's what he was over the summer. Over the summer, he was 20.
But that's what's happening with
Leverkusen, I want to say.
With all these clubs that understand that the Premier League is the destination. They're just jacking it up because it's like someone's going to be stupid enough to give it to me.
It does. Because the other thing that I will say on my soapbox at times is like, Arsenal also have to realize that like the high point for us is to be the Dortmund of England. And so at some point, this young team that we have, we need to restock it. And there's going to be some hard decisions made when we have like a 27-year-old Saka or a 27-year-old Martinelli and some of these players that have become really good. But like, do we want to sign them forever for crazy money? Or do we want to make, I mean, if he is worth 100, what is Saka worth? You know what I mean? And would anyone in England pay us that? Probably not, because it's only going to come from England, really. Maybe with the exception of 2 or 3 other clubs outside of that. But
I mean, I want to say we've hit the bubble for like what insane money players can be.
But the table stakes are getting raised. It's time for a takeover.
And it's Todd Bowley being like 120 for Enzo Fernandez, a guy that's had like half of a season of professional football. Yeah, we think that that's a reasonable thing to pursue. It's like insane. And all of the big clubs, frankly, have been part of it. Like PSG with the Neymar purchase, us with Pogba, Lukaku. Like we by like paying it anyway. All of our clubs are saying yes, and we'd like to pay it again. Like this is not going to change. But I don't know how it's going to change. The money just keeps matriculating in.
Yeah,
it's not. There's no sort of like future legislation in sight, because if you legislate the Premier League, then guess what? Spain suddenly becomes the place that doesn't have that legislation. So send your players here, more money here.
Right.
Capitalism is just a snake that eats itself, Jeff.
Yeah, I think that the money's only going to get crazier, and ultimately, I think it'll be tough for the teams that are paying their own bills the way that our teams are. I think that's going to be tough. The one thing that I'll say in Arsenal's credit, I think we tipped our hand here, because now teams know, they'll pay $100 million. You know what I mean? They're ready for their next Nicola Pepe.
Yeah, well,
they're ready.
But Pepe was the example of like why we shouldn't do this. Because if he's 30, you can maybe sell him for 15, and then it's like, okay, this almost never happened. When it's 70, everyone's like, well, we're not going to pay you what you'd want, and we don't want to pay what he's worth. Like, you get stuck.
I think the one thing that you can say to their credit, though, is like I think there was like a chance for us to keep bidding the price higher, or, and this one is like so interesting because it's not even about the price tag per se. It's about the details of the payment structure. But like, I think realistically, like Arsenal are losing money every year for the last few years. And most clubs are, because of the COVID stuff. So it's like,
and because we spread the payments out, so we're still paying for like
Nicola Pepe, for instance. But yeah, I think that they have a reputation for sticking to their guns and not getting into bidding wars and saying like, look, this is our valuation of a player. We think it's more than fair. Call us back. And we've had some incredible buys in the transfer window that, Odegaard, like Zinchenko, Jesus. If you look at Gabriel or Ben White, like Gabriel, Saliba, like all of these buys have been fantastic. So I think, I don't know, in my mind, I said before, I'll be happy if they stick to their guns and we don't get him, if that's what it comes down to. And it sounds like we almost did. I think they got us to stretch a bit more than we would have normally.
You were bi-curious.
we were quite curious.
Well, I hope, Jeff, that I mean, I don't know what I hope. I hope that you are happy, but not too happy. Probably in the same way that you wish for me.
I hope you're happy.
But you hope that I'm happy enough that you lose the title?
I don't hope you're that happy.
See, there's a limit to how happy you want me. You want me just right in that, like, he's happy enough he won't kill himself, but he's...
FA Cup happy for you. Premier League happy for me.
He's FA Cup half full is what.
Yes.
All right, ready for music?
Do it.
Later, bud.
See it.
Meet the suckers. Meet